Welcome back to the Hephaestus Challenge right here on robandan.tv/live. Ooh, we're still, Oracle and I are still trying to catch our breath after that best of three between Cake and Glowwater Thralls. I did not even think that'd go to a game three, but Cake did an amazing job of sticking to it, winning that first game in a solid fashion, and then unfortunately getting ground down by the expert, fine-tuned brawling that the Glowwater Thralls brought to the table.
Absolutely. I mean, even when Cake kind of did their classic thing in Northern Fjords, where they were able to turn the brawl around to their side, but the expert engineering on the Crown Tyrant kept that ship in the air. They managed to get Chem Spray going on the armor and on the balloon, and they were able to keep themselves in the fight so that the Masu could come in. It was too much. Like the engineering and the split tactics from the Glowwater Thralls was too much.
This was an amazing matchup, though. We saw some powerhouse flying from both sides of things, and certainly nothing down on Cake. They've made major steps forward since the beginning of the Hephaestus Challenge. They've really shown themselves to be a contender when it comes to teams that you need to watch out for. Moving on here, Glowwater Thralls winning the Cake matchup there and taking on the Ryders now. First map will be Paired and Rumble. This is Rydr home territory, as well as Glowwater Thrall territory, kind of. They do very well on this map usually.
The Thrall, I'd say the Thralls, like, this is their map more than anyone's. This is sort of a grudge match. This is sort of a redo of the group stages. Now, the Glowwater Thralls were first place in the group stages of the Hephaestus Challenge until they played against the Ryders, and the Ryders stole it away from them, right out from under them. And the Glowwater Thralls, and it was the day that the Glowwater Thralls did not have all of their captains. They want a rematch, and they're gonna get it, and they're running the Spire. They're not afraid to at all.
This is going to be an out and out brawl fest. I do not miss this game, folks. Do not go anywhere. We're best of three is going to be so much fun. Paired and Rumble's the map. Oracle, tell us about it.
It's interesting. You have a mid-height flight ceiling, but you have buildings that you can rise over, or you can use the buildings as hard cover and as a way to sneak around through these alleyways. And of course, you have plenty of cloud cover as well, so lots of opportunity for ambushing. And oftentimes, teams don't know where the other one is until they're right upon them.
Crown Tyrant, the first ship for the Glowwater Thralls. Scrimscraw piloting this Pyramidion. Gap Mortar, Metamidion with Flamer and Flare for support. Flare, very important on this map. And then we have the Wizard, piloted by Cryfix Sturdy, Watch Aspire with My Launcher, Light Flak, and a Hades on it. That's going to be fun to watch. Go ahead, Oracle.
And for the Ryders, we have the fancy Amobula, of all things, being piloted by Dementio. Hades up top, Carronade and Flamer on the lower decks, and Artemai on both wings. And we have the Lib GTK, a Pyramidion being piloted by Luosi. On the front, we have a Gap Mortar, Portside, Carronade, and Flare Launcher. It takes some serious cojones to bring a Mobula, a sniping Mobula, in Paired and Rumble against the Thralls.
I can't say it's a very good choice. I mean, I wish I could. I want to see it work out well, but I don't have a good feeling about it.
It's a challenge. I think that right now the Ryders are challenging the Thralls. It's like, we think we can run this. Try and stop us.
Meanwhile, on the Glowwater Thrall side of things, they brought their Spire out to play. This is a matchup of teams that think they can do anything and make it work, or at least do their own special kind of thing and make it work.
Yeah, the Thralls are convinced that the Spire is a very strong ship, potentially. And they run it.
The forward firepower of a Spire is unmatched. Like, you have 3 light guns and a medium gun all pointing the exact same direction. So to a certain extent, they're right.
It's the only ship in the game that you can feasibly get a quadfecta going.
Mm-hmm.
It's difficult. But right now, we're seeing one of the dangers of bringing a Spire. The Wizard ate a ton of damage. The Mallet brought the armor from almost down to almost all the way up. There is no armor on this Spire, and the hull is not a whole lot better.
Wizard is definitely hurting right now. Great shots from the Fancy so far. Those Artemis are really hitting true. It's not easy to hit between these buildings and through these alleyways, but they're making it look easy.
Mm-hmm. The Ryders are staying very close. Like right now, we see the divergent strategies of both the Ryders and the Thralls. The Thralls want to split. They want to try and get around their opponents, break them up, or just pinch them between both of their ships. They're the only team that can actually make it work consistently, and they're the only team that could even conceptually make it work on a Spire. But then on the other side, you have the Ryders, the regimented reliability of their play, and they rely on that ability, on that, on the fact that they believe, they have some of the best pilots, they have some of the best engineers, the best gunners, and they say, okay, let's just hang tight and make sure that we get all of our fire going.
Let's just hit tab, hold tab open for a minute there. Look at those levels on the Ryder side of
Nothing but level 15s. I mean, it's not like levels mean everything. But when everyone is level 15, all that really means is that you have so much experience.
You have spent, even if it was mostly from achievement farming, you spent a lot of time in Guns of Icarus.
And that means that you played enough that you say, I might as well get up to level 15.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
No, they have some of the best players in the game right now. There is no question. And they are confident in that fact.
Mm-hmm. Wizard and Crown Tyrant holding very close to one another, knowing that splitting up while they're trying to hunt these riders down would be very dangerous. They're trying to get a solid ambush on them. Meanwhile, the Fancy and GwTh are slowly cruising themselves, hunting for wherever the Glowwater Thralls have gone off to. I can only imagine both teams shouting Marco and Polo at each other through these massive canyons, trying to figure out where exactly each other went.
Yeah, you see the Thralls, they weren't able to find the Riders. Now, something that the Thralls like to do is most teams will rise up over the clouds and over the buildings and try and get an idea of where they are at the very beginning. But the Riders aren't even affording the Thralls that. The Thralls kind of rely on that. They say, if the enemy's probably going to rise up, we're going to use the knowledge of their position to our advantage and lock them down. But the Riders refuse to give that to the Thralls. They know that if they give that information to the Thralls, that they're in trouble. So you see, they're being very careful about the way they move around the map. They're moving behind and through clouds. When there aren't any clouds, they move low. And they really are confident that if they can just get a fair fight on the Thralls, they can win it. And I think they're right. The Spire is not the best in a surprise engagement.
With how much firepower the Fancy has, I mean, let's just look at it here for a minute. It has 2 Artemis, a Hades, a Barking Dog, and if they get really close, a light flamethrower. They have a ton of firepower, and not just stuff that'll damage components. They have the potential to do some pretty serious hull damage if that armor goes down.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's going to be a risky situation for the Wizard if they get into a brawl.
Mm-hmm. For those of you who are just joining us, this is the semifinals match. First game of the best of 3 up against Glowwater Thralls and the Riders. So far, we haven't had an engagement yet, no score yet. So you've come in at the perfect time for this best of 3. And they have just spotted one another.
Oh my goodness. Wizard has been spotted. Wizard is out in front to not where it wants to be. They are reversing as hard as possible behind this building to get the engagement in their favor. But Wizard is limping right now. They bounce.
They're okay, though. They're behind cover. The Fancy can't quite get any damage on them. You see how quick that armor comes back up if you have people on it. they're fine. But I think that this is what I was talking about. If the Spire gets caught out and these two ships are allowed to trade blows, the Fancy's probably going to come out on top, especially at this range.
Mm-hmm. The Wizard was way out front there. It did not have the support of the Crown Tyrant at that point in time. It looks like Wizard is going to swing around north, or rather west of the enemy team of the Riders. Crown Tyrant is pretty much just sitting back. No, he's charging the Fancy right now. He is charging straight to where they saw. Wizard could get blindsided here.
They're gonna get spotted. Look, the LibGTK spots out the Wizard. The Fancy is in a lot of trouble right now if the LibGTK can't take care of the Wizard. Crown Tyrant actually flames its own ally. The Wizard is turning. Can it get the Watcher Barrage on the engine column of the Fancy? It's gonna be tight. They can't do it. They're gonna hold on to that Watcher.
There's the LibGTK coming down this passageway.
Now they're switching.
Oh, they do not have the maneuverability. LibGTK eats a Watcher Burst, but it does nothing.
Hades.
That did something.
Oh, armor down on the LibGTK. Ram does the damage. Hades helped out with that too, but the Watcher is still reloading, and the Fancy has arcs on the Wizard. Crown Tyrant body blocks for it and allows the Wizard to bring its armor back up as the Crown Tyrant finishes off the LibGTK. But now the Wizard is in trouble. The Fancy is splitting its fire though. The Hades is going into the Tyrant, but the Artemis is going into the Wizard. The Fancy has not picked its targets very well, I don't think, and it's going to pay for it unless the Watcher goes wide. No disables on the Fancy, and now the Wizard is eating Hades and Artemis fire.
Oh, bounce
and death.
And the Hades.
Now the Crown Tyrant and the Fancy are the only ones left in this, but there is a building between either of them. 1 for 1. And it doesn't look like either one of these ships really want to engage. Oh, the Crown Tyrant, though. The Crown Tyrant does. It smells blood.
And I think Scrimsgraw knows that if they can engage the Fancy, especially on their terms, they're going to get a very easy kill. The Fancy can only point one direction at a time with its guns. Crown Tyrant can easily flank that Mobula because of how just difficult it is to maneuver that Mobula at times. The Mobula can be hard to maneuver, but LibGTK coming in the side of the Crown Tyrant, it's going to be a Metamidian battle. See who can grind who down first. Crown Tyrant is going below the LibGTK.
But here's the Wizard. He's bleeding. Engine column's gone. Flare's gone. Carronade's gone. Gatling is still there, though. Crown Tyrant is not going to be too worried about it. Its armor is going to hold, and the Crown Tyrant gets some easy shots on the LibGTK. Armor's down. Watcha is still reloading, but the Hades is there. It's going to be able to rip through the armor again pretty darn quick.
Man.
Armor's down. There it is. Crown Tyrant picks up the kill. That was a big mistake. Big mistake from LibGTK.
Great maneuvering from the Wizard, too. They knew exactly where to keep themselves. Normally, when you get in that close to a Metamidian, especially as a Spire, your instincts are probably to get out of there, but knowing exactly where the LibGTK and what kind of situation they were in, they held firm, they kept the pressure on it, and they focused them down quickly and effectively.
Well, part of the problem was the LibGTK went in where the Fancy couldn't follow, and they didn't know where the Wizard was. Maybe they suspected that the Wizard was still a while out, but it was right there. And I gotta say, turning a corner and having a Spire bearing down on you has got to be one of the most terrifying things in the world.
With that Watcher ready to go.
Oh, yeah, staring you right in the face. The Spire is a big ship. It's a really big ship. And when you come around the corner and see that Hulk waiting and staring at you, that's like, I don't even know. That's like SCP levels of terror right there.
We're not going to talk about that. That's no bueno.
A really quick update. Sky Invading Rhinos won their second match, and they are moving on against HRA in the semifinals over on Imagine Stream.
It looks like HRA already won that first game too, 5-1. Whew.
All right.
That's fast.
Wow. So Sky Invading Rhinos move on.
Yeah, but how did that match happen that quickly? What happened?
Yeah, we're just slow here. Yeah, these teams have both taken very, very defensive stances.
It's understandable, too. There is a distinction. Obviously, both teams have a Metamidian. That's true. But then we have the Spire versus the Mobula. While the Mobula does have the advantage of an extra front-facing gun, it doesn't have the heavy gun.
Mm-hmm. It's difficult to repair.
And its maneuverability Paradin.
Yes.
Sounds like we lost connection with Dan there for a brief moment.
There we go. You there? Oh, you there, Dan?
I think so.
All right.
Not good. I didn't want that.
Okay, we're here. All right, we got Dan. We got Dan. We're good.
As I was trying to say, what's important to remember is that it's much more easy to get the Spire through some of these passages than it is the Mobula. Much easier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's one of the reasons that the Spire is a feasible choice on this map, is because the Spire can move so easily between these buildings and keep arcs. It's got one of the advantages of the Pyramidion, oddly enough, in that when it's moving forward, its guns are facing forward. Like, its guns are an arc if it comes across someone going through these buildings. I mean, if a Junker starts doing that, it's in trouble. Mobula can't even fit through a lot of these buildings. That's a pretty big handicap on this map. But the Spire can do it. The Spire's fine.
That's one of the issues that happened with that last engagement. Where the LibGTK was caught, the Fancy simply could not get to feasibly. By the time they would have gotten to where the LibGTK was dead. So they simply said, we're not even going to try. And the fact that they had to make that choice, I think, shows a certain disadvantage of the Mobula on Paradin Rumble.
Yeah, it's hurting them a lot. The LibGTK, the reason that the Glowwater Thralls are up in score right now is the LibGTK went where the Fancy couldn't. And it got too aggressive. It thought it could finish out the Crown Tyrant. And we might have an engagement here.
Wizard has actually been caught behind some debris. They're going to have to either rise up or go around here. Looks like they're choosing to rise above and go over this debris, but it is going to expose them outside the cloud cover, even for just a moment here, which is risky. But it looks like the LibGTK and Fancy are going to find the Crown Tyrant before any other ship. Flare goes out. Everyone's lit up.
There we go.
Here we go.
Fancy and LibGTK bearing down on the Crown Tyrant. Now, the question is, are the Riders going to follow it? If they do, the Spire, look at that. The Spire is laying in wait. It's ready.
Wizard is ready to jump on this. You're absolutely right, Oracle. They're just waiting for Crown Tyrant to draw someone out here and say, well, you should come say hello. And then Spire will then quite happily do its dirty work.
Say hello, my little friend.
Wizard's actually falling back, though. What are you doing, Wizard? Looks like a little indecision on the part of the Glowwater Thralls.
They don't know if the Fancy and the LibGTK are going to come around. Now, the Crown Tyrant does have a flare. It could pop another flare into the clouds if it wanted to keep track of the Riders. But the Riders aren't going anywhere terribly quickly anyway. And the Wizard is a little bit worried right now. It's holding position in between these buildings, you can see, so it can see any of the Riders' ships coming around.
They have a very good position right now. I love the positioning on the Wizard. They have great spots ever. As you were mentioning, Oracle, they can see everything that's going on at this junction.
They're being careful, though. They really got to be careful how they engage. I mean, the risk you run with the Spire is if you end up with a bad engagement, you're not just in trouble, you're dead.
Fancy is slowly pushing forward. LibGTK watching the flank. There again, both teams are playing it very cautiously. They know the ambush power of this map. And if you are ambushed in a even in a somewhat fair manner, you're still most likely going to die. It's so hard to escape an engagement on this map. So hard to escape. You're going to bump against things. There are cranes all over the place that captain, even on the most easily piloted ships, sometimes can't even see. You sometimes cannot even see those cranes, but they're there and they'll stop you.
Yeah, It's difficult. Peryton Rumble is one of the most difficult maps in the game, if not the most difficult. Now, the Riders, they have a suspicion as to where the Glowwater Thralls are. They suspect that since the Wizard had a nice position, like they could kind of assume where the Spire was. They just said, okay, you know what? That Spire is not going to be moving, and they're coming in. And the Clouds are going to give the Riders enough cover to close distance. The Wizard is going to get the spots on these ships first. And the Crown Tyrant is lying in wait. Spots go out. Crown Tyrant is already eating fire. Fancy firing on the Wizard. Its armor is already very low. LibGTK rising up to try and dodge with armors down on the Wizard. Those double Artemis are doing quite a number, but the Fancy swaps targets. Oh no!
They caught the ground.
They bumped, and now the Crown Tyrant is all alone. Armor down on the Tyrant. Mortars coming out. Fancy not going to have any trouble landing shots either. And suddenly the Riders have taken the lead 2-3.
This is one of the risks of flying a Spire on this map. Even if the very tip of the bottom of the Spire catches something, it will stop it dead in its tracks. I do believe the Wizard was gunning its engines as the tip of the bottom of the ship caught in this destroyed building and stopped it in its tracks. The top of the ship wanted to go forward. The bottom of the ship stopped, and it ripped itself apart.
Mm-hmm. It definitely doesn't help that the Fancy took the one weapon that the Spire cannot deal with, the Hades. The Hades is, like, we've talked about it before on stream, but the Hades is so strong against the Spire. It's so easy to land those mortar shots because the trouble with the Hades isn't, the horizontal movement, especially when you have a ship holding steady. The problem is the arc of it, trying to make sure that it actually hits what you want. But the Spire is so tall, the Hades has no trouble with that.
It can be very difficult to land it on almost any other ship, but a Spire, you have a lot of breathing room with the Hades. And because of the low armor and low hull of the Spire, it's very effective against it. Extremely effective against it.
Now, the Thralls have tried to pin the Riders into that very same spot that they were in, but the Riders are moving out. They're going east. Go east, young man.
Dangerous situation, especially if the Riders swing to the north. They could very easily catch the Wizard from behind, and at that point, it's not even much of a fight.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a bad engagement for a Spire to be caught from behind.
Yeah, the Wizard just moving very slowly, allowing the Crown Tyrant to go first. Like, hey, you check to see if it's safe. And that's what the Thralls have been doing. They've been poking out, and they've been saying, oh, no, they're there. We want to back up. Now, the Fancy is right around the corner. No spots are there yet. I wonder if they know how close they are to one another.
I don't believe so. Although Wizard and Crown Tyrant both turning in the direction of the Fancy and the LibGTK, have spots. No, there's just too much cloud cover here. They do not see the Fancy right there. A little closer, and they'd see some of the smoke from the engines. Shots going out there from the LibGTK. Spots are happening. Fancy is coming in on the side. LibGTK, Crown Tyrant engaging each other. Wizard supporting as best it can. Crown Tyrant's getting drawn out, though, while the Fancy comes in from behind on the Crown Tyrant. They are in a lot of trouble. A lot of those shots are going high from the Wizard.
Yeah, the Wizard needs to be landing those shots on LibGTK, or the Crown Tyrant's going to eat it. Fancy focusing it down. Armor comes back up, but the engine column on the Crown Tyrant is completely disabled. Hull's gonna get shredded in just a moment. But the Watcher Barrage comes out from the Wizard. The Fancy is suddenly in a huge amount of trouble. Can they get those light guns up in time? The Hades is within arming time, and the armor is holding on the Fancy, but only barely. Where's the Watcher? The Wizard has nowhere to back up. It's got to get the Watcher Barrage out, and there it is. The armor comes up after the first few missiles land. The Crown Tyrant has fallen, though, and the Wizard is going to get focused down by the LibGTK. It's going to ram, because why not? Why not at this point? The Watcher is going to come out again, but the LibGTK is a Gat Mortar Pyrrha, and it's not having any of it. The Wizard falls.
Great match. This is exactly what I expected when the Riders and the Glowwater Thralls go at it when they're at their best. That was so close. Fancy, I thought was an odd choice prepared in Rumble, but Daniel really made it work. Daniel,
he makes it work. Dementio's good. Uh-oh, did we lose Dan? Dang it. And he's the one with the call. Oh, well. Well, anyway. Okay. Well, either way, the Thralls, it was so gutsy of them to take a Spire. They insist. They insist that the Spire is still a viable option, but they have to engage so tentatively, and I feel like it doesn't fit with their style. They're not a bait team. They are a flanking team, and the Riders are too competent to allow themselves to be caught off guard by a Spire like that. It is very tough. The Thralls put themselves in a very compromising situation, and the Riders took full advantage of it. Next map is going to be Canyon Ambush. Still a Thralls map. The Thralls are still very good on it. But I don't think they can afford to take the Spire. Not this time. Fiasco total. Going to swap around. Fiasco is going to stay the pilot. So it looks like we're going to change it up a little bit. I don't see the Riders changing at all. I don't feel like the Riders should feel any pressure to actually change up that Mobula. It's very strong. Geo is one of the best gunners in the game, without a doubt. He's amazing on that Hades, and the Artemis on the wings. They're great. They're so powerful. And then they have the Lib GGK for lots of defense. I mean, there's no reason this build shouldn't work on Canyon Ambush. Even better than in Persian Rumble almost.
We've also had an update. HRA take the second match. It's 2-0 for HRA. They are moving.
Match.
Yep.
HRA is going to be in the finals.
And still waiting on Dan.
I'm
don't know where his internet just completely died, I'm thinking.
Looks like Dan's gone, unfortunately, for now. So you just got me, Fourth Oracle. Hi, guys. We're hopefully going to be getting the game underway very soon. But HRA has advanced to the finals. Whoever wins this best of 3 goes on to face HRA. And that's going to be an incredible match. If the Thralls go through, it's going to be great either way. If Thralls go through, it's going to be just regimented, like perfect play going up against clever play and clever flanking. And if the Riders go on, it's going to be perfect play versus perfect play. It's going to be amazing either way.
And I'm trying to bring up that the tournament page keeps on messing up for some reason every time it updates, so it's getting out of alignment on my graphic.
All right,
here.
he's trying to fix it. Go ahead and start.
Oh, Dan's trying to fix it?
Is he?
I don't know, because he's still not here. I was wondering who you were talking to. We could see if Imagine wants to jump in temporarily until Dan gets back.
That's a good idea. We should see if we can get Imagine in here. I like casting with him. I'm totally fine casting with him.
Okay, let me just check here. We'll go to a quick break, and we will be right back. live.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Hephaestus Challenge. This is game number 2 between the GwTh Thralls and the Rydrs. Map number 2, going to be Canyon Ambush. The Rydrs were able to take game number 1 after some very, very strong play. They just were not going to allow the GwTh Thralls any quarter. I have with me, because Dan unfortunately desynced, it sounds like, we have Imagine joining us this time for the second match. We have got to get underway very quickly, though, unfortunately. Imagine, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Let's get a quick rundown of ships here.
Let's do it. For the GwTh Thralls, we have the Crown Tyrant, a Pyramidion, being piloted by Scrimscraw. Gat Mortar forward with a Flamethrower and Flare on the port side. Lagfest ahoy. And we have the Masu, a Pyramidion, being piloted by Fiasco Total. Gat Mortar as well, with a Flamethrower and Flare on the port.
And on the other team, the Rydrs, we got the Fanciest. We got some shots going down. It's a Mobula. Let's actually get into the action real quick here, and we'll get the rundown of those ships when we get a chance. As the Masu is taking so much damage here already.
I'll let you know, LibGTK is a Metamidian, and it's loading that Gat Mortar into the Masu. The Fancy is a Hades double Artemis Mobula loading into the Masu as well. The Crown Tyrant is nowhere to be seen. The Rydrs are just too aggressive for the Thralls, and now the Crown Tyrant is already going to hit with LibGTK, eating a lot of fire. Can the last mortar hit? It does. LibGTK goes down, but the Crown Tyrant has its rear facing the Fancy. Artemis coming in, disabling those engines. The entire engine column on the Tyrant is down.
Oh, and it's taking out so many Hades shots, just connecting right into that hull, and those permanent damage shots coming in from the Artemis. But the Masu is actually respawned. Can Crown Tyrant actually get out of this alive? They might just be able to, as the Masu is now coming up on the Fancy. Fancy's desperately trying to kill off the Crown Tyrant, but not able to do so, and now he's got to face a Pyro right in his face. And that never really goes well for a Pyro versus Mobula matchup.
Now the Fancy can rise up and try to back up. It can play the vertical game a little bit. Its balloon is a little bit damaged, though. It's having a bit of trouble, and the Gatling's going down on the Fancy. The Fancy is dropping back down, trying to get underneath the Masu, and it does it. Armor goes down on the Fancy, but it's okay. Armor on the Masu down as well, and it bumps.
Slams into the side of the rocks there, and a huge amount of damage, and now Masu is hurting a lot as LibGTK is coming in with that Gatling, stripping all that armor. They get it back up.
No, they can't do it. Mortar comes in and finishes it off. 1-2 in favor of the Rydrs already.
Man, I thought I was going to get a little bit of a break here between matches, Oracle,
nope.
and suddenly I'm like, oh, got to get back to casting, and already 3 kills in a span of, 5 minutes, something crazy.
Not even that.
Masu really should not have charged forward there, quite honestly. It had to know that the LibGTK was going to be burning as much as it could to get back into this fight.
That was a bit of a mini meat grind there. That was so dangerous. The Crown Tyrant had to back
the Crown
up,
Tyrant
and now it's damaged
by itself, and he's going forward. Why is he going forward? Why is he not pulling back? Oh no, Crown Tyrant's going to get caught right in the corner here between the LibGTK and Fancy, and that is no possible way that ship is going to survive this.
No, the Thralls are playing this so strangely. Gatling going down into the armor of the Tyrant. The armor goes down. They ram. They kill themselves and splatter their guts over the LibGTK. 1-3 in favor of the Thralls. And now the Masu has been lit up by a flare. I think it was the Fancy's own flare that did it. And now the sniping is coming in. The LibGTK is charging. The Rydrs want a meat grind in the GwTh Thralls spawn. They want to close this out and get to fighting HRA as soon as possible.
Yep, and LibGTK and Fancy just bearing down on the Masu. Armor already down. LibGTK just smashing the Masu with that Gatling mortar. And Masu is taking such a pounding right here and will probably just end up dying in a matter of seconds as LibGTK comes forth. 4-1, and now Crown Tyrant is moving forward for no particular reason.
It's got to reconsider this decision, Imagine. It's going through the canyon. It's trying to move between these big rock spires. It's going to use it as cover. Oh, this is the thinnest piece of cover that it could possibly have found. Masu spawns in right into the fight. This is going to be tight. The Fancy is going to find a lot of trouble fighting in these closed quarters. And the Masu turns on the Fancy. Crown Tyrant coming around at about the same time.
They're getting
going to force the taunt in from the Masu.
Yep, there's a little bit of a bump there. That GwTh definitely gets the worst of that as that armor has gone down, and down it goes. So quick kill there by the GwTh Thralls. That's definitely what they needed, but now the Fancy is still riding up on the Masu. Masu gets his armor back up. No more permanent damage coming in there. Masu's just going to bump the Fancy down, and that will take the Fancy out all the way as a Crown Tyrant finally does what Pyras do to Mobulas. That is a 4-3 only now, and I mean, GwTh Thralls had to have those 2 kills in the manner that they did. Barely took any damage. You know, the Masu is hurting a little bit, but that could have gone definitely worse for them. Well, it's really anybody's game. Still with the 4-3, really either of these teams can win this still.
Yeah, absolutely. It's only going to take one more for the Riders, but the Thralls, if they can get a good flank going, they can absolutely take this game and push it into game 3. It's anyone's game right now. The Thralls have a play style that can still take this, absolutely. But the Riders aren't going to give it up so easily. They may just try to buy time. They may try to fight in their spawn.
Yeah, I think it'd be very smart for them to gather on up, basically right where, you see a lot of these engagements takes place right all around that lip of the blue spawn, and they're gathering up already there. They're flying a little bit low. I would have liked to see at least one of these ships a little bit higher up. You don't want to get slammed down into the ground. Now the Mobula can move up can move up and down fairly quickly, but there you go. They're definitely getting a little bit more vertical movement here now. Oh, yeah. Looks like the Thralls are actually going through the Valley of Death here.
They might get caught.
And will they actually catch the Riders come around? No, you know what? I think we might actually get into a little bit of a ring around the rosy here.
Maybe. Yeah, and at least the Riders are going in.
Yeah, Riders are moving forward. And I think for sure the Thralls knew that the Riders were going to back up. They didn't want to fight in red spawn anymore. That didn't go very well. Well, it went for them at the start, but that was almost by the Thralls' own problem. Oh, they're actually going to get a spot on the GwTh. They're coming around the side here, and the Fancy's turned all sorts of the wrong way. Oh, my God. Are the Thralls actually going to be able to come back here and win
It's going to be too close for the Hades. The Fancy is not going to get the burst unless it backs up. Artemis coming out, but it's a little bit early, and they're going to go wide. GwTh loses its armor. The double Metamidian may be too much.
Oh,
the armor is not there. And now the Fancy is all alone. It's loading Artemis into the engine column of the Crown Tyrant, but the Masu is going to turn. The Fancy realizes it's got to take out the Masu quickly. Gatling comes in.
The way that they're moving is away from their own spawn. I mean, the other blue ship, whenever it respawns, is not going to be able to